much for being here, guys. I really appreciate it. Again, this is a new venture that I'm doing, and it's just something that I'll tell you a little more about it after. We'll make this quick so we can get into the interactive part and you guys can go party. But this is Sophie, and Sophie has been on quite a journey in the last while, and so I invited her here tonight to tell us a little bit about her story because I think it's important. So
well, thank you so much.
ready.
Yeah. Well, you got to know the old Rory, so it's a little different. Not really. I guess I'm really the same person.
You are.
I guess my journey really started 5 years ago when my mother and my brother passed on the same weekend. It was one thing that I always wanted to tell my mother I was trans, and I never did. I never got the courage. I tried to tell her 4 or 5 times, and it just couldn't do it. And then I decided a week before she passed I was going to go and tell her that day. And I went that day, and she was talking to dead people. And I said, why am I doing this? And it's one of the biggest regrets of my life that I never told her. So anyway, I got a call saying my mother was unconscious and they're bringing her to the hospital. And I said, well, I'm going to close up my office and I'll meet y'all at the hospital. As I'm walking out the door, the phone rang, and it was the sheriff. And he said, your brother's being life flighted out of the Gulf of Mexico. They're doing CPR, but they don't think he's going to make it. So by the time I got to the hospital, my brother had already passed, and we sat around for 2 days waiting for my mom to die. It was a very, very heavy week. Probably the hardest thing I've ever done was burying them both in the same day, which was really, really traumatic. And it's one of those things that kind of just eats away at you after a while. That you knew you should have done it, and you never did. I told her on her deathbed, but it's not the same. Anyway, 2 years later, I had another tragedy in my family, probably as big as that, and I can't go into it right now. But everything just, like every 2 years, something major was happening in my life. I mean, every 2 years, and it was not little things, it was like things like that. And around August of that year, I realized I no longer had control of my gender issues, and they were coming up to the top whether I wanted them to or not. And that October, I was coming back from the Austin Film Festival, and when I was coming back from the Austin Film Festival, I started looking for a place to kill myself because I didn't want anybody to know that I was transgender. I was ashamed, I was embarrassed. I just couldn't do it. Why me? Why? And you go through a lot of different things. Anyway, I wound up reaching out to my friend Wayne Perret. Wayne. And he talked to me for about 4 or 5 hours. He wound up talking me into getting a therapist, which I got. And then a couple of weeks later, I went to, I started seeing the therapist every day. And then 2 weeks later, I wound up going to New York. And, it's not like you see in the movies where you reach out to a therapist and all of a sudden you're better. It doesn't quite work that way. I was in New York for, I won another film writing contest. And when I was there, a friend of mine had the building across from Rockefeller Center, and they go, come see our view, it's a great veranda and all this kind of stuff. And I have no idea what a view was because all I could think about was jumping. Of course I didn't, I guess. I made it back, and December, the day the anniversary of my mom passing, I was coming to New Orleans to, I had a movie that I worked on, and they're having a screening, so I'm coming up to the city to see the movie, and it's like, I did it as a favor to a friend. I don't like the message of the movie. Why am I even coming up here? And I turned around and went home, and I went to bed. Well, actually, I went home, and I said, I'm going to have a beer. So I took one sip of beer and said, I don't feel well. I'm going to go lay down. 15 minutes after I laid down, I started throwing up blood. Perforated ulcer. I had been drinking about a gallon of rum a week, so about 3/4 of a fifth a night. Which was my choice of medication, I guess, just making me numb. And that's what we go through. It seems like we all have this, that we just try and hide who we are. Anyway, when I was in the hospital, I wouldn't tell the doctors that I was on hormones. I wouldn't say anything about that at all, because I figured if they would know, the whole world would know. And I just wasn't ready for it. After that, it's like, I said, that's like the stupidest thing in the world to die, because you're so embarrassed of who you are. I wind up, finally, I got a doctor, because everything I was getting for was off the internet, things like that. And I slowly started embracing who I was. It was a very, very hard, very long journey. A couple of things I did right was I called taking control of the narrative, which was I did things subtly and just on my own terms. One thing I did was on my Facebook page, I changed my gender from male to female. Actually, before that, I started posting just random transgender articles. Not commenting one way or the other, and you get a bunch of different comments, but just all articles about transgender issues over 2 or 3 months, I guess. Then I changed my gender from male to female. Nobody commented for about 4 months. And then I friended somebody I knew in high school, and they did this little snarky comment about, you were a guy, now you're a girl, and then everybody on my Facebook page jumped on them. I didn't have to do anything, which was wonderful. That was really amazing. And everybody said congratulations. But before that, I went through all my personal friends and my family, and I sat down with each person and told them what was going on. And I think that was one of the biggest things I did right, because I haven't lost any family. I haven't lost any friends really at all. And since I really started embracing it in the last year and a half, things have been exploding for me. I went from behind the camera to in front of the camera. And my first year and a half in front of the camera, I've been cast in 3 television series. I've been cast in 14 movies and a play now. And that's the first year and a half, including was top of show for Chicago Med, which is a major role, and that was a big role.
Yes, it was fantastic.
I've been the cover of Diversity Rules magazine out of Michigan for the month of November. I'm a syndicated columnist now for transgender issues. I'm in Pride Source, that's the syndication, and also Boston Out Loud. So a lot of things are happening. I'm writing a bunch and just really kind of trying to get my feet wet and kind of make up for lost time that I was hiding. So that's where I'm at with my life. So yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Well, thanks.
So I can't even imagine what that journey was like, and so kudos to you for your bravery.
Well, thank you.
And that's what the We Can Hear You initiative is all about. And just to tell you really quickly, that this idea came for me. I had a car accident a couple years ago, and she and I were talking about it, and I've been in severe chronic pain for 2 years. It's just starting to pass. But in my dark season of just having no way to fix it and not knowing how to get through it, I dealt with a lot of depression and just got to points where I just didn't want to live.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to fix it. And it was overwhelming.
We always want to fix it.
Right? Oh, we do. And so I sat there in the darkness for days, and I just thought, what can I do to keep myself alive, and what can I do to let some of this out, the angst. And this was just a concept that I came up with. I was like, I didn't have words, because I am a bit of a writer, and I'm a storyteller with my art, with video and acting and producing and things like that. But this was a part of my life where I didn't know what to say about it. I didn't have the answer. I didn't know how to find a way through it. I couldn't even tell you how I felt. People would ask me, how are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know.
You get numb, and that's what happened to me. Was
and just
I called it my armor of numbness, where nothing could hurt me, nothing. I just had this armor, but then all of a sudden it started getting kinks and holes. And,
Right, and you can't hide it forever. Like,
right,
you try to
it's
pretend it's
coming
okay,
out.
and all of a sudden
Right.
you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically what it was, and I just came up with this little idea, and I was like, well, maybe I can, I'm not a painter, I cannot draw a stick man, but I thought, well, maybe I can find a way creatively to express this, to get some of this out, like this pain and frustration and anger and all these things that I'm feeling, sadness, you know, all these things that I'm feeling are convoluted. We're amazing, we're humans, right? All these emotions we can feel at the same time. It's incredible, really, but it's overwhelming when you don't have an outlet and you're in a situation where you can't control it, you don't understand it. So yeah, I just came with this little idea, and then I was in LA, and I thought, I'm just gonna put this out and kind of do a little project with it. I really did it for myself. And I was like, so I could survive and focus on something positive. I was like, I gotta get this attention off of me, because all I can think about is me and my trauma right now. And I put it out there, I had some friends show up. Some I knew, some I didn't know. And we did this little artistic experiment in LA, and we basically just created a space where we sat in front of a mirror and we looked into ourselves and we communicated with paint how we were feeling and where we were. And it was really liberating, I think, not just for me, but for everyone that's participated since then. It's a very simple exercise, but it's been proven that art therapy is super effective because it does that. It gives us tools to communicate, to feel, to connect, and to do those things without always having to form into words or make sense, or, you know, no one's going to judge the artwork, and there's no judgment, there's no expectation about anything, and everybody has their own, you know, interpretation of what this is, and that's perfectly fine. So what I would invite you to do today, for all of you who can and will participate, it's very, very simple. We have mirrors built into the walls here, so I didn't have to bring any, but we'll just set up little stations. I walk you through, you pick your paints, you pick your colors, your palette for the night, and then we'll take you in there, I'll turn on some music, and you'll have 10 to 15 minutes to just connect with yourself. You know, in society these days, we tend to be super busy, and we're running around, and we're on our phones, and we're on our Instagram, and we're, you know, all over the place, but we're not necessarily here. And so what this does is it creates a safe space for you to just be here and to really just sit with yourself. You know, these days we don't even really look each other in the eye enough. We don't connect with each other enough. We definitely don't connect with ourselves enough. We don't actually look into our own eyes as we would someone we really love and care about and say, how are you? And this gives you the chance to do that, to just check in with yourself tonight and say, how are you? And it's interesting what you'll find. Everybody has a different experience. Most people feel something, but there is no one way to feel about this, and I don't want you to even have expectations. One thing about this space is that when you go in here, you can stop being a mother, a brother, a lover, you know, electrician, a film. You can stop being everything but you. And there's something really powerful about that, about taking off all those labels that we've been wearing that get really heavy, you know? In that room, you don't even have to be male or female. You don't have to be anything but the core of you, which is your spirit and who you are, right? Who you really, really, really are. We don't use brushes, and there's a reason for that. There's something really cathartic about putting your hands in the paint. Remember when you were a kid and you used to get messy? We've forgotten that, right? Yeah. We've forgotten what it's like, that primal feeling of just putting your hands in something and messing yourself up and not having to be so pretty all the time. Right now, you don't even have to be pretty in that room. There's nothing you have to be other than you. And that's my challenge to you, is to find you in there. When you walk out, I'd love to see the purest you that you've ever seen. It takes courage, because we get really comfortable with these labels. We get really comfortable with being a man or being a woman or being, you know, whatever we are in our job, an accountant, you know, or actress or whatever we are. You're really comfortable hiding behind that. But underneath all of that, there is this beautiful, perfect you. And that's what I would love for you to find tonight. Find you. And then express that however you want. You can paint your face, you can paint your neck, you can paint your chest, you can paint your arms, you can paint just your hands, whatever you want. It's completely open. Paints are non-toxic, they're completely safe. I've got all wash-up materials, and there's a men's and a women's area back there. Cleanup's easy. Challenge you. Be brave. Come with us. Play.